All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 5 of Star Trek Adventures Euthenia, an actual play of Modiphius's Star Trek Adventure system. Man, I'm already out of the gate. I'm already brain fogged. That's a good sign. I'm ELH, the Game Master, and joining me are some lovely individuals. In terms of announcements, the only thing I really have to say is that we did a little bit of I did a little bit of audio balancing, so let me know either in chat or on YouTube comments, wherever. Let me know if the audio is still a little bit out of sync or if there's still volume issues, because I am trying to get better at that, and someone alerted me to that, and I've hopefully fixed the problem. But just let me know if it's not. Other than that, I don't think there's really any other announcements, so let's just go ahead and do introductions, and we'll get started. So, Mr. Aaron.
Hey guys, yeah, I'm Aaron, back again for week. I've lost track of how many weeks, but 2+ years of gaming with ELH on Tuesdays, which I've loved, and these wonderful people who I also love. I'm playing Captain Williams, the human commanding officer of the USS Euthenia, and Monday nights on Rise of the Dark Avatar, I play Lu Song-Shi, the Earthbender.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm Watney. I'm playing Commander Stetko, the first officer and empath of the Euthenia.
Hey everybody, I'm Dag. I'm Euthenia's Edosian CMO, Major Ray Razib. Tonight's going to be wild. If you want to talk about it, you can hit me up on Twitter at TrackNexus.
And hello everyone, my name is Matthew. I play the Vergeron Intelligence Officer of the Euthenia, Vizeth.
Very good. All right, and we're now going to enjoy that lovely new intro that Techno Nerd made for us. So, Techno Nerd, take it away. All right, welcome back. So we last left off with the crew of the Euthenia basically creating a lot of their own problems, but in the process they discovered two very important things. One, that apparently they had an extra crew member in the form of Null, a black hole, a sentient black hole that they met during the, I guess, series opener. And apparently that one of the crew that is on board is an imposter and is actively sabotaging the ship. So that's fun. But I'm going to let the players do the opening log here, specifically Mr. Razib, and we'll get started proper.
CMO log supplemental. That super secret project I was working on with Specialist Vizeth. Turns out you can't keep a secret on a ship this big. Also, when you're veterans with the XO and the captain, it's hard to keep things on the proverbial DL when risking the safety of others. On the bright side, my punishment was probably the swiftest revocation and reinstatement of senior privileges in the history of Starfleet, which is currently advantageous as Specialist Vizeth is probably in mortal peril as he encountered the avatar of an eldritch abomination that we've known as Null, and has, by activating his neural implants, potentially inflicted irreparable brain damage on himself. So while I am recording this log, I am currently investigating and administering a tremendous amount of life support techniques to keep Mr. Vizeth alive while The captain and the XO investigate our extra crewmen and log.
Very nice. And your benefit for doing the log is you get to keep the momentum that you had from last week. So you're starting with 5 thanks to one generosity of chat. But we're going to start in sickbay. Raziv and Vizeth, you're in the main operating theater. Avalis is still out on one of the bio beds, and Williams and Stetko, you've taken over Raziv's office for the time being. But first, we're going to focus on Raziv and Vizeth. So, Razib, you have a few nurses with you. You have vitals of Vizeth on the big screen on the wall, and you are doing your best to stabilize someone who basically, as you said, flicked the Vorta kill switch in a way. So, one of the nurses comes up to you and goes, Major, I know we're supposed to be optimists here, but how there's so much neurological damage. How are we supposed to him back?
We can start with 30 cc's of tricordrazine, like I asked.
Here you go, sir. Sorry. And just because I want to be a little bit evil, he gave you 45 cc's. That's going to be the complication from chat. So the vitals of Vizeth are going to fluctuate for just a little bit, giving you a probably bit of anger, a bit of startleness.
Nurse, report back here.
Yes, sir.
Go lock yourself in the brig. I
sir?
said 30, not 45. Know how to do your job and get somebody else up here who can take advantage of this cerebral architecture.
And one of the other nurses comes over and starts leading out the stuttering nurse. And a new nurse, we'll call him... actually, hold on, I've got my NPC list here. Let's call back to one of those. Ensign Frank Thomas comes up and says, I'm sorry, sir, we had one of the crew... You know what, it's not important. I'll tell you later. What do you need?
I need electrostimulants, 400 joules.
400? You got it, sir. And they started fixing those like neural things that they put on the forehead of anybody they're going to do the resuscitation shock on. And this is where we're actually going to do a roll. Now, I'm going to be nice and tell you that even though it's a two-parter, you are going to get your determinations back. I'm going to give you that. But I am going to tell you up front that this is going to be an extremely difficult task. Now, it still is going to succeed at cost, but you definitely want to pass this unless you want complications, which you may be. Complications are fun. So it's a difficulty 5. It's a daring medicine. And because Vizeth is a Vergeron, you do get xenobiology. You have 5 momentum, your determination, and a hope and a prayer.
Do I also get quick study?
You do, and that is going to knock down the difficulty to a 4. I did already account for your difficulty going down from being in sickbay, so you are at a difficulty of 4 overall.
Okay. All right. You said it was a daring medicine?
Correct.
Cool. I like that. All right. I'm gonna... How much? Let's see. 1 momentum for
1 die.
1 extra dice?
Mm-hmm.
And then how much threat for another?
Well, if you want, the smart way to do it might be to give me the 1 threat and then 2 momentum, because otherwise you're doing the 1 momentum 2 threat.
Hey, we're playing bold here. Yeah,
okay.
We'll do it that way though.
Okay.
So 1 threat, 2 momentum, using the focus of xenobiology. You said the complication range still
is... I'll make the complication range a 2, so 19 and 20.
Okay. While I set all of that up, because for some reason it's not changing in the...
Is Foundry being
field.
weird?
Yeah, it's saying it's a 1. I can't change it here, but you can probably check the dice and we can...
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll check it manually. Not a big deal.
All right, so 4 dice total.
Mm-hmm.
Rolling.
All right. Yeah. So you're good. You're almost good. You do get a reroll though, so you can reroll that 18 to try and get that last success.
Excuse me. I will do that.
And I don't know. Has anybody tried the actual yellow button reroll results? I have no idea if it actually... Hey, there you go. Nice. So you bring it up to 5 successes, meaning you get a momentum back. So the results of your ministrations on Vizeth's cortical nodes and all sorts of gray matter-ish techniques to basically restore what is a burnt-out set of neurons Vizeth, I'm going to let you flavor this as you will, but you go from being out to almost like, what's a good example? Oh, you know when you've watched Pulp Fiction, right? You've watched Pulp Fiction. Please tell me you've watched Pulp Fiction.
I have not.
Okay, all right. That means I got to use a different example.
Person on Earth.
All right, I'll use a general example. Anytime someone needs an adrenaline shot to the heart, you stab them in their sternum and then they shoot upright. Yeah, that's the same thing that happens with you, Vizeth. And Razib, you can flavor whether or not you were expecting that, but Vizeth, you shoot up wide awake.
Okay, then I think just for a moment before he shoots up, you see this massive spike in neurological activity as a series of redundant neurological systems and pathways become active that you hadn't really discerned or been able to detect. It's kind of like that redundant neurological system of a Klingon, along with the various different organelles that are supplements in case one is damaged. And that hyperstimulation then sort of signals some kind of alarm on your tricorder. Vizeth shoots up and actually just like straddles towards you, clutching at your uniform, and starts just yelling, "Where is it? What?" And he babbles incoherently for a moment as I guess these neurological pathways begin to reset, and he then just sort of almost like throttles you, screaming about where she is. Where is it?
And in response, Razib drops two of the tricorders he was holding in his two flanking arms and puts both hands on Vizeth's chest to try to push him back down on the table while saying, "She isn't the biggest concern you have right now, Mr. Vizeth. I am. So I suspect that you need to stay here in my care and then we can go find her." And he administers basically a basal ganglionic replicator dosage right in there.
And as he's sort of fighting off the effects of that and still struggling with some of the orderlies that I'm sure have begun to congregate around him to try to hold him back, he's just going to start yelling, you fool, you don't understand. She is the biggest threat. She's going to kill us all. Worse.
Well, then we all go together, so sit tight.
As that's unfolding, we just very slightly shift the camera to Razib's office, where Captain Williams and Commander Stetko, you're having a conversation between yourselves, but if you want somebody else there, like Rash, or, well, I guess Dorothy's offline, but if you want another NPC there, I'll throw them in gladly.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. So Stetko's likely pacing by the door, just sort of tapping her fingers. Would she at some point in the combo or at some point in the scene like sense that Vizeth is back up and in turmoil? Would that like ping?
I would say at some point in the scene, to your discretion.
Okay. So she's just like kind of pacing quietly by the door, waiting.
And I think the captain will have taken over the major's desk and has co-opted his desk console. And you can see he's tapping at something. He just sort of stops for a moment and looks at the commander and says, "I hate it when you do that."
Oh. Sorry. I know.
Yeah. So, what we're talking about, all off-duty personnel confined to quarters until we find this saboteur. Still nothing on the internal sensors. I can't discern them, just like Null said. I can't place them.
Well, we have no idea the nature of the imposter either. You know, my head says changeling. Probably not. I'm unsure to even start looking.
What if we're going about this the wrong way? What if we wait for them to come to us?
I'm listening.
Well, think about it, Commander. You worked security just like I did. You were... And we both worked station security at one point in our career. We set up a sting. We set up soft targets in every major department and wait to see who takes the bait.
Now, the saboteur immediately went for Dorothy. Dorothy's out of commission. Almost feels like we're flying blind. That being said, and I need to check with Rash on the ETA to get her back up and running, where we're at with that. But what if there's a way to bait them with a critical system of some kind?
Oh, Commander, I think you just hit the nail on the head. Yeah, you're a genius.
I wouldn't go that far, sir.
All right, I'll stop just short and say that you're extremely competent. What if we pull a page from a 23rd century playbook and pretend that Dorothy's working again?
That just might work. But how would we pull that off?
A shard of her still exists in that exocomp body. It just is out of sync with the rest of her psyche. I wonder if we can leverage that, even its voice.
I would need to check and see what the instance looks like, what the consciousness looks like, but I worry about splitting her off from her original self and becoming a completely other separate person. Probably Rash's expertise, but
As
would
a
it be
quick
possible
aside,
to
out of character, just so that everybody remembers, Rash is restoring Dorothy from a 2-week-old backup, so
Yes.
actually the exocomp is now ahead of the main persona. Just wanted to remind you guys of that.
Okay. So we might be able to sort of reverse engineer or like ensure compatibility between the current present instance and previous 2-week backup to kind of like get the 2-week-old one up to speed, so to say.
Well, that may be able to augment our efforts, but I think we need to find some way to simulate Dorothy before we get her operational. We need to lure this saboteur out now before they have a chance to strike again. And it's obvious they struck at Dorothy first because she's the one most likely to be aware of their activities. She's essential to the smooth operation of the ship. The saboteur knew that and cut our legs out from under us before we even got started.
And we don't know to what end their efforts are targeted at either. We don't know what
Exactly.
the true purpose is of them being on board. I haven't quite looked in, I suppose, to the hollow emitters on board. But what if we were able to use those?
That's an excellent idea. Maybe check in with Commander Rash on that when you get the chance. All I know is we have to do something to keep this person off balance so that we have time to recover.
I'll check on the capabilities if you want to think about how to maybe format this ruse. Oh, Vizeth. He's awake.
All right, let's go. And I think the captain will want to go over to where Vizeth and Razib are, along with Commander Stetko.
Party in the operation room. Love it. So yeah,
I'm
Razib
telling
and
you, whoever she is, whatever she needs to do here, she hasn't destroyed us yet. So don't go, jumping off. What do they call that, Captain? On the end of a ship, when you jump off, you get the badge of office thing. It's a wooden plank.
The plank.
Human metaphors are irrelevant at this juncture. It has to be destroyed. All of our current technological and logistical infrastructure must be devoted to devising a means to eliminate it.
Stand down, crewman.
Captain?
I'm glad to see you're up and about. With no apparent loss of vigor, I might say.
Only a renewed sense of focus, Captain.
That entity's been on our ship for weeks. If it wanted us dead, it could have done so long before now.
That only means that we are part of some sort of larger, incomprehensible machination on its part. You've seen what it did to my vessel, what it did to the other Vergeron ship that was sucked away into another universe. These things are not meant to exist in our universe.
Are you sure that they're all working together? The one we met that recently revisited us was cordial, hospitable.
Even helpful.
Vizeth is going to say something, and then you notice that he is taken aback for a moment, and then settles again. It can't change what it is. It can't change its nature.
Well, crewman, what do you suggest?
And don't do the first suggestion because we're in here because of what happened.
I'll just say that I ask you to consider the fact that your entire species, a technologically advanced in many ways beyond Federation technology, intelligent through genetic engineering to a level unapproachable for the vast majority of people aboard this ship, with resources of worlds and empires, are unable to assail these beings. What do we do? One ship alone.
It doesn't have an answer for you.
There's an old saying that I've liked since I was very young. If we're going to be damned, let's be damned for what we really are.
And about then, as you make that prolific statement, the lights flicker, and the ship goes to red alert.
Unless the saboteur kills us. Of course.
I'm going to the bridge.
And Williams slaps his comm badge. Williams to engineering.
Rash here. I don't have good news for you, sir. To put it plainly, Warp Core 1 has been destabilized. The dilithium crystals have completely fractured and disintegrated. We're running on about 50% power right now.
Can you trace the origins of the cause at all? Was there some kind of isolated control panel you can isolate?
That's the funny thing. There's only 4 people on this ship that have the engineering know-how to do what just happened. I'm one of them, and the other 3 I can vouch for, so whoever this is, they know what they're doing with Starfleet technology.
Rash, Do you have access to internal sensors? Are they still operating with sufficient precision to determine the location of individuals on board the vessel?
I mean, I can echo the concern that I brought up to the captain and then that there's an extra, but I can't pinpoint who's the extra, if that's what you mean.
Not precisely. And he's actually going to rise up from the bed, stumble slightly as he seems not to have to have his motor control entirely restored, and then continue sort of shoving off anyone who tries to assist him. We've just gone to red alert. All the crew should be reporting to their duty stations. Would the saboteur not be engaged in some motion that is unanticipated, unexpected? Going to somewhere he or she or it should not be?
That's a good thought, but usually I would have to go to Dorothy for that answer. I wouldn't know. I'm sorry.
What about the computer?
Well, we've got basic functionality of the computer, but Dorothy's restoration is probably about a week off at this rate.
Right. Commander, what can you tell me about the computer's ability to collate data independent of Dorothy? I know we don't have the same response time that we would if she was with us, but surely the computer still records all biometric readings on the ship at any given moment, correct?
That's correct, sir. All I would say is that it's best to think of Dorothy as kind of an advanced program running on the main computer. All the hard data is there, but anything related to Dorothy's personality, her insights, things of that nature, that is gone. Like, that is what we're restoring at this moment. But logs, right, those are still there. It's just there's so much data to sift through that, again, without Dorothy could have done it in 5 minutes. For everybody else, we're looking at, assuming nothing else breaks, we're looking at easily a couple days' work just to pinpoint what's missing or wrong.
Commander, for the moment, I want you to suspend the repair operation on Dorothy.
Sir?
If this saboteur continues on their current trajectory, we may not have a week.
And you kind of hear her like yell off screen, quote unquote, "Hey, stop what you're doing and go focus on the warp core instead." All right, I'll get my team working on the warp core and making sure nothing else blows up.
And I'm sending you some help and hopefully a solution.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
No, Commander. Keep me informed.
All right. Hey, you knocked over my coffee. What are you doing? And then it cuts off.
And the captain will turn to Commander Stetko and Viseth, and he'll look at Viseth first and say, "Are you fit for duty?"
I have remarkable recuperative capabilities, Captain. I am fine.
Commander Stetko, I want you and Viseth to put your heads together on finding this saboteur. We'll try conventional means, perhaps a security algorithm to correlate the location of individuals relative to their pertinent duty shifts at any given time. I would like to know if anybody is out of place. In the meantime, I'll get to work on that decoy.
I recommend we switch our communicators to a different channel, command channel.
Excellent idea. And perhaps, and he hits his comm badge again, just calls the bridge and orders general quarters.
All right, so the general quarters whistle sounds across the ship. And at this point, Nurse Thomas actually pokes his head back in and says, Major Razib, Avalis is looking like she's going to wake up anytime soon. There's a spike in neurological activity.
He looks back over at Viseth. Don't go trying doing that explodey thing again. I've only got so many arms.
I can make no promises, Doctor. This situation might call for it.
As far as I can tell, you only have one redundant neurological structure. So unless your preganglionic fibers can turn into postganglionic nerves at a rate far and above even your people, then, well, it's going to be a one-way trip next time. Good luck.
To you as well, Doctor. And Vizeth, that is then going to turn to the captain. Captain, if I may make an observation, if this saboteur wanted to destroy the ship, he or she likely would have been able to do so given the access that they had to the warp core. Our ship is being disabled systematically. Our defense is atrophied. I would recommend that we launch what alert craft and strike fighters we have to perform combat air patrols and guard the vessel if we are, in fact, disabled and prevented from launching them in the future.
That's a wise precaution. As a matter of fact, that may be a target for sabotage, the launch bays. We'll launch them immediately.
So we very briefly cut to the hangar where new sirens are sounding and there's just scramble, scramble, scramble. And, we see pilots and engineers running to their craft and doing the whole Top Gun thing of jumping into fighters and launching out into space. But as this is all happening, my first question is, as Vizeth and Stetko are, if I understand correctly, you guys are moving out of sickbay right now.
Mm-hmm.
Williams, are you staying behind to deal with Avalis, or is it just going to be Razib?
Originally, the captain had intended to begin to, I guess, mock up a cybernetics lab to try to lure the saboteur there with, statements of Dorothy's recovery. But when he hears Avalis is going to regain consciousness, he'll stay.
Okay. All right, so Stetko and Vizeth, you guys step out, and we focus now on Avalis waking up with Williams and Razib looking over her. So Avalis, her eyes kind of flutter open, and she looks around at everyone present. And if Stetko were here, and Stetko, you're still probably feeling this, but not as extreme as it once was. There's definite fear, there's definite anxiety. But it's not like panic attack levels. I mean, it's still up there, just not freaking out levels. And Avalis begins signing frantically at, anybody. Like, she'll look at one person sign something, then look at somebody else sign something else. And again, without Dorothy, you don't really have a good way of talking to her.
I mean, I'm not quite conversational yet. But I think through his best efforts, he will make the sign for slow and attempt to sift out keywords and intent or the message that she's attempting to convey.
Right. Let me see. I think that could be a insight and a command. And I'm going to set the difficulty here to 4. Because, again, you aren't an expert, but you do have rudimentary knowledge. You basically have a Rosetta Stone crash course is what you have.
Just as an aside, Razib is going to set one of the tricorders to a biometric recording to see if he can start creating a database of signals that can be used either by another person or holographically, in the case it should be.
Noted.
All right, and you said that's insight plus command?
Correct.
My insight is not terribly high. That's okay. All right. And
you have 4 momentum and your determination if you so wish to use them.
I think I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I feel like she might have something extremely important and useful to say. So I think we're gonna start early. I'm gonna tap my tap a value,
okay,
so that I can spend determination.
Okay.
The value that I'm gonna use is good enough isn't good enough.
Okay.
And I'll use that for the additional die at a natural 1, and I will spend. I'll spend an additional 2 for
the third die. Mm-hmm.
For the third die, and we'll see how this goes.
Survey says... All right, so did you include the...
No.
Okay, then that's 6 successes overall, which means you get 2 momentum right back. So I thought about how to do this in a way that wouldn't be jarring, but I didn't have a good answer. I didn't come up with one. So I'm going to give you basic key phrases because that's what you were looking for. And I'm going to do my best to communicate, on a level that is rudimentary, but I'm probably going to mess it up. So just there's your forewarning. Your message of calm does seem to get her to stop and slow down, so her signage isn't as rapid. But she signs something along the lines of gods, hurt, vessel, apologies, humble servant, apologies, etc., etc. Something just like a repeating message of remorse.
Okay. So I think in order to in keeping with the theme of simplicity and clarity, Williams will make the sign for forgiveness.
Okay. And you've seen her use it, so you can sign it back, no problem.
Mhm.
And she actually freezes mid-motion. And Razid, you actually look maybe nervously at her chart because there's a blip in her neurological activity where it's up there, it goes down all the way to nothing, and then spikes back up. But it's very, very slight. And she doesn't seem to be any worse for the wear, but you do notice it. And when she's past this blip, she signs back even more slowly as if she's deliberating over her words. Apologies, gods, not worthy.
Are there any chemical associations with that spike and fall? Is this like an
If you want to
oxytocin
give
effect,
me,
or
if you want to give me an insight medicine, difficulty of 2, but you're in sick bay, so it's a difficulty of 1, I can potentially answer that.
I'm pretty sure you don't want me to use xenobiology again.
I mean, she is a xenobiology would apply actually in this instance. So all right, that's 3 successes, giving you another 2 momentum. Very nice, you're capped. So very similar to what you just did with Vizeth, those same sort of neurological activities and chemicals, they literally went to 0, like they stopped pumping, as if her brain shorted out for a moment, is the best analogy I can think to describe. But then it jump-started back without any disruption in her biological reading, other than what you noticed, of course.
Peculiar.
And I think,
He says,
yeah, I think the captain will just sign 2 more words to her.
Mm-hmm.
Worthy and rest.
And I think with that, she'll give you, she'll lock eyes with you and she'll nod meekly. And then she'll kind of settle in and maybe ruffle her feathers a little bit as she kind of looks to Razib and the other nurses.
I don't think she'll give you any more trouble, Doctor.
finally.
What was that blip?
Merits further investigation, sir, but I don't think anybody expects forgiveness from their gods so quickly.
Well, she hasn't met one yet.
When she believes that, I'll let you know.
Right. Well, Doctor, I have some things to do. Might I suggest that you arm yourself?
Oh, I'm not leaving. Commander Stetko was very clear. 24-hour surveillance in here. I have special things that need to be taken care of.
Right. I just mean arm yourself in case our saboteur begins targeting key members of the crew next.
His third arm reaches behind him and pulls out a phaser. I'm right here with you, Captain.
Right. I should have known. Well, carry on and let me know.
You look at your phaser's power reading. It's empty. It's been drained.
It's fine. Take a look at that when the captain's left.
Probably a good idea. All right. Well, we're now going to transition to Stetko and Vizeth. Where would you two currently be hashing out whatever plan you're about to undertake?
Any suggestions?
I would suggest, because I have the background behind me, perhaps the security readouts or security stations on board the bridge, so we can have a tactical readout of the entire vessel.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Bridge it shall be. All right, let's clean up some tokens here.
And honestly, that's just because I don't have your fancy background there.
All right. Well, the good news is that since you're being a little bit private, I'm going to say you guys are actually using the kind of conference table underneath the main gangplank where a lot of the operations personnel sit. So you're on the ground floor of the bridge. And in general, you have some measure of privacy down here. The nearest person away is only just able to hear you if they strain their ears. So you're somewhat confident that you can speak freely here. But again, just as a reminder, you do have a saboteur board, but I did want to put you slightly at ease.
Sure. So, the captain and I had the idea to essentially simulate that Dorothy was back up and running in order to bait saboteur and perhaps keep them on their toes a bit, because I feel a bit like we're getting run around here.
I believe this is some sort of human tactical doctrine where you are actually weakest, you feign strength. It's antithetical to my own species approach, but this could be effective as a ruse.
Yes. So we need to isolate where on the ship hollow emitters exist, find a way to simulate Dorothy within a hologram, and also choose the most advantageous position. GM.
Yes.
Would we have this information already?
Yeah, I can give you that information very easy. You've got hollow emitters everywhere. Literally everywhere.
Everywhere. Okay. I wasn't sure, like, some ships have them, some don't.
Well, okay, small canon rein here. By like the end of Voyager, they were already beginning to phase in hollow emitters everywhere. That's kind of what the Prometheus class was meant to do originally in 2375. But I'm getting in the weeds. Sorry. Yes, by this point in the canon, there are hollow emitters across most of the mainline ships.
Okay. So small retcon, she would say we need to find out where hollow emitters are still functional on the ship, and then choose the most advantageous position. Shouldn't be difficult to render an avatar of sorts for Dorothy, given that we have a backup of her within an exocomp. Hopefully that's in there.
Given that the most pressing issue to address would then be the repairs to the warp core, we could certainly identify a location on the ship where Dorothy's presence would be feasible in order to effect those repairs. I am, however, somewhat concerned about further acts of sabotage while we implement this plan. Should we not dispatch security teams to, well, everywhere? At least the tactical systems, secondary phaser control, and the like?
Sorry, GM, so the power is off, right?
Oh, you've got one warp core out of 2 working right now.
Okay. So internal sensors are still working?
Intermittently.
Okay. Good answer. So yeah. So she would say, like, well, we still have, I would say, tertiary power due to some of the warp core, our other warp core being on, but we've put the crew in their quarters. Hopefully sensors would pick up most of that. I'm not sure we have enough to man the entire ship. Perhaps we can isolate the most critical systems, life support, sick bay. Those are 2, I would say, is a very high likelihood of sabotage.
If we are operating under the assumption that this is a series of strikes designed to render us more susceptible to external attack, again, weapons control might be wise. And as he says that, he's going to pull up a schematic of the ship on the tactical display. And GM, would it be possible for me to see how it was that the warp core itself was sabotaged? We know that it was damaged, but was this some sort of power shunt run from another location on the ship into the magnetic containment field that then fused the matter-antimatter intermix chamber? Or what is it that actually caused the fusion of the dilithium crystals?
I tell you what, you've kind of taken the words right out of my mouth, so I'm not going to have you roll for it because you're already thinking along the same lines. Yes, there was a power surge, and you actually can watch the feed as one of the EPS conduits leading off of the warp core actually backfires and more or less causes a miniature explosion in the warp core that should have triggered many systems indicating a warp core breach, but didn't. But this explosion wiped out the dilithium crystals completely. And without dilithium crystals, you can't sustain a matter-antimatter reaction in that warp core.
And do we know anything about the location of the ship from whence the power surge originated?
That you're going to have to roll for.
Right.
That is going to be an insight security difficulty of 5.
Okay. Then Vzeth is actually going to point out this pathway along this series of EPS relays that have sort of, I guess, not been tripped properly, or the series of fail safes that did not activate, and just turn to Stetko and say, Commander, I'm going to attempt to localize the source of this initial power disruption, if you'll give me a moment.
Of course.
And that's insight security, was it?
Mm-hmm. Got
Yeah,
6 momentum if you want it.
Yeah, I'm going to tap my value. Life finds a way to adapt, so must I, in the sense that this kind of subterfuge, rather than a direct approach, is almost antithetical to his own tactical doctrine, and he's operating within that mindset, considering what he said about essentially putting himself in the shoes of somebody who is using surreptitious means rather than direct ones.
Give it to you, sure.
And it would be 5 momentum to roll 3 more dice?
To roll 4 dice total, it would be 5 momentum, yes.
Yeah, okay, then I will do that.
Okay. And let's see what you get. Hopefully not complications. All right, that is okay, so you actually checked that one was the determination. Okay, but that's 5 successes, so you do succeed. So what you're noticing is that the EPS conduits in question, all of them seem to be either serviced or last looked at, or the last access log all points to the Alpha team, the Alpha shift of engineering, and that includes somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30 people, including Commander Rash, including what was Dorothy's exocomp. There's a wide variety of things, or crew members in question, but what I'm going to give you for your success is that you're noticing that the changes necessary to allow all of these cascading failures, because again, should have triggered a warp core breach warning, all of that seemed to have started about the same time of period that you're losing Dorothy for, so that 2-week period.
An interesting coincidence. If you'll notice, Commander, 2 weeks ago, these series of apparent maintenance shifts that have, I presume, disabled the redundant systems that would have prevented this warp core incident corresponds with the loss of Dorothy, or at least the records of Dorothy that we eliminated.
That was almost 2 weeks ago.
And Vzeth is going to try to pull up personnel logs from 2 weeks ago, not necessarily reviewing personnel logs, but is there anything that stands out in terms of personnel transfers to Alpha Shift, or anything about interactions with other crews at that time, like passing ships or landing on a planet?
Right. I think I'm going to make this another... I think this is probably a reason security in this instance. I am going to set the difficulty at a 5 again, but if you pass, I will give you a very crucial bit of information.
Then I think Vizeth is going to turn over to Stetko. Commander, given your position as XO, you are far more familiar with personnel rosters and duty shifts than I. Perhaps you could investigate this matter and learn something about the potential identity of the individual on Alpha Shift who may have been responsible for this sabotage?
Sure, I can cross-reference shift change orders, requests, as well as any, anyone we picked up or we could have picked up. So she'll kind of like log into the database in the console, pull up shifts here and there, and then try and like make the cross-reference if any exist around the time that this occurred with Dorothy's backup, and then would highlight anything she found.
All right, so it sounds like Stetko, you're doing the roll here. It's going to be a reason and security. It is a difficulty 5, so you may wish to tap a value to spend determination, as well as give me some threat here.
Can Vizeth assist?
Oh, yeah. I think it's probably given that you can assist with your own reason and security.
So I have Starship and Starbase security systems.
I'd give it to you, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I also have behavioral analysis, which would be fun.
That also would apply.
So tapping a value, well, let me think about which one, because I'm gonna tap I could tell when you're lying.
It's a good one, yeah.
Okay.
So that'll start you off with 2 free successes, and at the moment you're rolling 2 dice. How many dice would you like to roll?
And what's the difficulty?
A 5.
Or what's a 5? Oh gosh. Okay. What momentum do we have?
You have 1 momentum at the moment, so you're
So I
probably
would-
gonna have to give me some threat.
Spend that and then give you a threat.
Okay. So that would give you 3 dice to roll total.
If I give you 1 more threat, do I have?
If you give me
4?
3 more threat, you can roll 4 dice.
So I give you 4 threat total.
4 threat and 1 momentum, yep.
Are we willing, guys? This is a group decision here because.
This is critical.
I believe yes.
Okay.
Now, Mike, let me just ask you a question. This is going to be a horribly hard sell, and you're going to tell me no. But constantly watching as a talent, considering that she is observing the situation and attempting to detect some kind of hidden intruder on board the vessel, does that apply?
I have that. You
Yes,
don't
you
have
do.
that too.
No, I don't have
It's
that.
just it's me that has it. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, this is kind of what constantly watching is meant for. So yes, I believe that makes the difficulty of 4.
Correct.
So yeah, that actually makes it a little bit easier for you, Stetko.
Thank you, Matthew.
You're welcome.
Okay, so
I can't believe that worked, but you're welcome.
Well, I gotta let you use constantly watching sometime.
it's actually built great for that. So okay, so focus, yes. Determination, yes. Rolling 4.
Yep.
Let's go.
All right, that's 5 successes total, which gives you 1 momentum back.
Okay.
I'm going to whisper you something on Discord, Watney, because I want the reaction to be organic. And this is the only thing you're going to get for your success. But it's a very, very key thing.
Okay.
It's a very short thing, too, but there you go.
Okay. So, okay. That is good.
And I would tell you that, no, actually, that's what you're noticing in the logs, is that people are
Okay.
talking about it on her crew.
Oh, okay. So she's cross-referencing like personal logs that the staff is making. Is that correct? Okay. So she pulls up some interesting, some of the personal logs, like not really finding anything from a transfer perspective or just like a metadata. The metadata is not helping her determine anything. And so she dives a bit deeper and starts going into the personal logs of the specific shift. And interesting. You know how Commander Rash is usually quite caffeinated?
I have noticed her narcolepsy, yes.
It says here in a couple of logs noted by her team that she stopped drinking coffee about 2 weeks ago.
I was under the impression that she required that to function.
As was I. That would be a dramatic shift in behavior.
An inexplicable
was-
one. Commander, I believe we should report to main engineering.
I believe you're right, and I can chat with the captain on the way.
And as they're walking out, which I presume is what you would do, the last thing you would hear from Vizeth is essentially an inquiry: how direct are we going to be in our interrogation methods?
This is not an interrogation. Rash doesn't know that we found this in the logs. Rash, at that point, may not even know that those logs were being recorded. There's no reason for Rash to be suspicious that we have noticed this change. And let's not get ahead of ourselves, Vizeth. This is not an interrogation. This is us checking in. Sorry to
It would be so
disappoint
much
you.
more simple if we just. Very well.
Rash could have been compromised. She may not even be compromised. She could be herself, but compromise a completely different Rash. There's a lot to consider here. We need to weigh the options and go in carefully to the situation. It's the only lead we have.
Do you wish to contact the captain and have him join us for this not interrogation?
I think I would probably like to do that. Yeah, we can stop by sickbay. I think he's still there.
All right. Let's play out that scene in sickbay real quick, and then we'll do our 10-minute break. So we go back to sickbay, where Williams and Razib, you're finishing up with Avalis, when the door opens and in pokes good old Stetko and Vizeth, just grabbing you on the way.
Commander, crewman, that's awfully quick.
Well, we were able to determine that some of the maintenance on the power conduits leading to the warp core that was disabled were last maintenance 2 weeks ago by a specific crew. We also coincided that with Dorothy's last backup. So something happened around that time where we suspected that someone either came on board, someone requested a shift change, or something happened with that specific crew on duty at that time 2 weeks ago. I cross-reference, transfers within departments, all of that, and logs from ships we had met along the way at that time. Didn't find anything, so I went deeper and started reading the personal logs of that specific shift. And here, and she'll pull it up on a pad, hand it to him, and then there's highlighted each log on it, the specific sentence that Rash has stopped drinking coffee.
And Razib, you can see this information as well, unless the captain is hiding the pad.
No, not at all.
This is real.
So at this, I'm to believe that for 2 weeks, Commander Rash, who can't stay awake even when caffeinated to such levels as would kill a Jem'Hadar, has been off coffee.
I mean, If Rash has been off coffee this whole time, then the power balance should have been completely fine. That 15% that was accounted for earlier. Wasn't it Rash that noticed that in the first place?
Right. I think we have to have a word with Commander Rash.
And now
Who
that
wants to
you've
bring
said the magic
security?
words, all the lights in sickbay cut off, the doors seal, force fields come up, and some form of gas begins venting from the vents. And that's where we're going to come back after our break. We'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes.
Time.
Stick around.
We're gonna do Die
everybody.
Hard.
My favorite.
Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of session 5 of season 2 of Star Trek Euthenia, where there's probably a good suspicion that Commander Rash has either been compromised or is a saboteur or basically a bad actor, and the moment the crew has discovered this information, they were locked into sickbay and gas began venting from the vents. So we resume right there with you all in the dark, with emergency lighting only, as some form of gas is pouring into the space.
Stecco's immediately gonna go to the nearest emergency panel and pull out respirators.
Okay.
Razib is scanning to see which particular chemical this is.
Well, it's a favorite of yours, the nestazine.
Ah, wonderful. Can I access the computer to see who released it?
Nope, computer's offline. At least in this room, anyway.
We know who did it.
Yeah, I just wanted confirmation.
Can any of the emergency force fields be activated, or the Jeffries tubes be opened, or are they sealed off as well?
They're all sealed. All the doors, all the Jeffries tubes, even the vents have been sealed. Well,
And
aside
the
from the ones
transporter
pouring the
pad?
gas. The transporter, it's interesting that you asked that. If you go and check the power leading to the transporter, that is still there. But the computer's offline. So you can't really rely on the computer to do any transporting.
You thinking you want to beam out to one of the fighter craft?
Is this occurring all over the ship or just in sickbay?
You have no idea, unfortunately.
We have no idea.
Maybe we could lock onto Rash's signal and beam her here.
Doctor, I would be hesitant to use the transporter, considering the death trap that we find ourselves in. I suspect that it's being left active is, in fact, is it a Trojan horse? Is that the expression?
Oh, she's tricking us into beaming herself into the ship's energy reserves.
That would be rather fitting.
So just quick question here. Did anybody give Avalis a mask, or is she just going to go night-night?
Razib would have given her one first. Patience and all.
All right, so I'm going to say then you can mask yourselves and about 50% of the nurses, but the other 50 nurses just sort of start slumping over consoles or falling asleep on the spot against bio beds and stands and walls, and soon you have about 20 or so people just asleep and snoring.
And I think I'll use my talent, rapid, genetic engineering or genetic modification. So Vizeth is not actually wearing a mask. You just sort of see him step into that haze of gas, breathing normally.
Fair enough.
Razib's going to go to the manual lockout controls on the door and just start pumping those to open the doors if they are pumping properly.
Well, that's the thing, is it's based on hydraulics, so it should be working even without power, but when you go to pump, there's no resistance. It's just kind of a give, and it's free give, no resistance whatsoever.
She's rerouted the hydraulic fluid that was in these releases.
Well,
Fascinating.
we have to get out of here one way or the other.
How long into the anesthetizing gas dissipates?
Without without life support online to vent it, it won't.
Is life support offline?
Well, she closed the vents, so for as far as we're concerned, yes.
Not going anywhere.
Doctor, considering that the transporter still has power, could we reroute it to short out the force field emitters blocking the door and then force it?
Sure. Anything's worth a try now. I'm a doctor, not an engineer.
If the transporter's active, then presumably the saboteur's intending for us to go somewhere of their choosing. Can we co-opt control of the targeting computer? That's still a partition of the main computer. We may be able to access computer control through the transporter.
We might. Or we could just dump the energy from the transporter into this phaser and see if we can shoot our way out.
Could Stecco determine based on empathic feeling that she typically gets from the whole ship? Could she determine if she's still getting the entire ship's signal, or if everyone has gone to sleep?
About half the crew has gone to sleep.
Half the crew outside of sickbay has gone to sleep.
Correct.
Can she discern in one direction or another where that happens?
No, unfortunately, because you did sound general quarters, it's across the entire ship.
Yes, I would imagine she put the crews... Far more likely that the crew on duty was put asleep and those general quarters were just placed on lockdown.
It's a better way of putting it. Thank you.
That means that the ship is entirely defenseless.
Well, except for our fighter pickets.
I was, of course, hasn't compromised those.
Is she, and not to lean on empathy too much here, so tell me if I am, but is she picking up anything in like the surrounding area of the ship, like any newcomers like flying in? Is there any?
It's funny you mentioned that because we moved to an external view of the Euthenia where we see the fighter craft rapidly circling the vessel trying to get somebody to respond from flight control when a sphere that has kind of a bifurcation in the middle, so there's kind of like a valley right down the center of the sphere, uncloaks and begins moving towards the Euthenia. We see the fighter craft moving to intercept, and a firefight breaks out. But you, of course, are unaware of all of this. But there is a fight going on outside.
You know, Specialist, I think you're right. I think there might be a way to use the transporter to short out the main power in sickbay, which would disable the force fields.
Yes, I think Vizeth is actually going to go over the transporter and remove one of those access panels to first see if he can access the inner workings in order to determine whether something has been set up to, I suppose, sabotage transport out. Is there anything that he can look at in terms of the pattern buffer, the Heisenberg compensator, any part of it that seems to be deliberately sabotaged?
Insight engineering, difficulty of 3.
Okay.
Can I assist because Razib oversaw the remodifications to this sickbay fairly recently?
You may also assist with your own insight engineering.
And I'll give you... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, could Razib instead use medicine, and we can say it's dealing in some way, shape, or form with bioneural gel packs?
I don't think bioneural gel packs are in the transporters, so
no. They're everywhere.
No, Razib must roll with engineering because he must risk it. Because his engineering's like a 1, so he must try.
It's a 2.
Okay, there you go. Even better.
That's twice as good as a 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Composure, shipboard tactical systems.
Give you composure.
And I'll spend 1 momentum to buy an extra die.
All right.
There was a complication.
Oh, interesting. Hold on. I don't think my my Firefox is updating. Oh, there it goes.
Wow.
All right, so we have 4 successes with a complication, so you do get your momentum right back. So yeah, Vizeth and Razib working together, you are able to discern that yes, had you performed any transportation whatsoever, you would have been beamed out into the cold, empty depths of space and would have perished very quickly. The complication, though, is that when you notice this and you start to reroute power and fix this problem, there is a momentary power surge, which is going to affect both of you. Now, I'm just going to roll 3 challenge dice here, and we're going to see what happens. But in general, I don't think this should lethally injure either of you, but I am going to let you know it is a lethal overload here. So just going to let you know. All right, yes, so you're each only going to take 2 stress damage. As, you know, standard Star Trek, console doesn't explode, but it does shoot you in a shower of sparks and shorts out. But you still have control of what you fixed.
If we reroute these central power lines into one of the major power nodes, it will cause a cascade reaction that will neutralize the redundancies, and it should disable the main power in sickbay.
Indeed, that will destabilize the targeting scanners, but we should be able to compensate manually.
Ready when you are.
And you actually see that the slight burn on Bezeth's hand from the panel that he was working on is beginning to knit itself closed, and the flesh is just sort of scabbing over quite quickly. Yes, I believe that I'm quite well.
Would you consider being part of a study if we get through this?
I don't think that either of us is actually going to survive, Doctor. Our prospects for actually emerging from this alive are quite grim. We can discuss it later.
I'll take it as a yes.
So he's just going to gesture to the transporter pads, and if he can target the bridge and get us a sort of a direct transport to the bridge, that's what he would do.
Okay. Yeah, you can do it with that success.
Captain, I believe that I have successfully repaired the transporter. If you'll step on the pad, you should not die when you transport.
Well, can't say fairer than that now, can't we? Let's do this.
I just wanted to make it clear that it is a possibility.
Captain,
Doctor?
I've loaded this with Rash's usual dose of caffeine. If she happens to be there, you may want to use it. For whatever reason, this entity didn't like it.
Excellent suggestion.
And Bezeth is then just going to turn over to Stetko and whisper, see, that is exceptional interrogation.
Make a fine security officer.
All right, so I just want to be clear on one point here. Is it just Williams beaming to the bridge?
I think everyone's beaming to the bridge, except perhaps the doctor.
That's why I wanted to ask.
I need to protect the fungus.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
So let me just move some things
in the
around
first
here.
place.
No more hyposprays.
And
All right.
before they go, I think
Yes.
Bezeth would try to arm himself with whatever might be available in the sickbay. That might not be a phaser if the doctor hasn't recharged his, or there isn't anything accessible from the sickbay. But if there's some sort of like laser scalpel that could be improvised as a weapon, he would take that.
Well, what I would
That's
tell you is
good.
that you have 1 momentum. You could spend it to take anything with an opportunity cost of 1, which would include, if I'm remembering the chart correctly, would include some form of a dagger or sword. So I don't know, if Razib has a batleth for whatever reason in sickbay, you could take the batleth.
I once had a patient I sutured during the Klingon War. He didn't make it, but I stole his mek'leth. Here.
There you go.
Just a woefully inefficient weapon in terms of its design, but it will suffice.
All right, so that's what Vizeth has going on. Stetko, Williams, what are you taking, if anything?
Might be able to dump the power from these tricorders into your phasers. If you find they're low, you might get 1 or 2 shots.
I think the captain's just going to take the hypo spray that was given to him.
Okay.
Like, not
Stetko.
take it,
The
but
battery.
like
He's
he's just,
not that kind
and
of
he just
take.
he just injects himself and Kool-Aid Man's through the actual bulkhead. And just
It's a lot of caffeine in that shot.
oh yeah.
Commander Stetko, I happen to have a vintage Bajoran tricorder here. It's outfitted with a sonic diffuser. If there's a danger, you might be able to knock everybody out by exploding everyone's eardrums, except, of course, Vizeth's. Will grow bite back.
What button?
The big black one right there in the middle.
All right.
Okay.
She'll holster it.
Good luck.
And as best as possible, when he targets the transporter, Vizeth is going to try to make sure that they are placed on the bridge, let's say near a weapons locker, if there is one on the bridge.
Roll me a challenge dice. If you roll an effect, it'll happen.
Okay.
All right, not an effect, unfortunately. So you are going to beam to the bridge. But when you arrive on the bridge, it's not together, and it's not anywhere close to Rash. Because when you beam onto the bridge, you do see that everyone on the bridge is either slumped in their chair or tried to make a move for the exits and fell asleep there. The only active member is Commander Rash wearing a respirator as she's attempting to do something with the captain's chair and access console. And as you beam in, she kind of looks around and goes, "Damn it, I thought I had more time." And she's going to pull out a strange-looking energy weapon that you've never seen before, but it's about the size of a phaser. And let me see, who's our lucky winner today? I'll roll 1d3. She's going to shoot it at Mr. Williams, because you're lucky number 1. So, Rash, what do you got going on in the shooty department? It's not terrible. It could be worse. Let's see. Yep. Well, the good news is Rash is a terrible shot, so Williams, a blue beam fires over your head and strikes the console behind you, causing a shower of sparks, but misses you completely, and we now move into an actual encounter. So it's going to go player Rash, meaning each of you can act in whatever order you wish. So who would like to go first?
So is she aiming at Williams?
She did take a shot at Williams, yes.
Oh, she took a shot. Okay.
Yep.
Stecco's gonna try and shoot her.
Okay. That is going to be a control security, difficulty of 2. And let's see how you do. This could be a very quick encounter. I mean, there's only one combatant here.
Energy-based small arms technology.
I'll give it to you.
Was she armed? I mean, Rash is armed, but Stetko, did she have?
Yeah, she took a
Sonic-
phaser and a battery pack thing.
Okay,
From,
all right.
Yeah.
Like,
And
she
you
only
did
has a
just
couple
get a momentum
shots.
from chat, too.
What's the difficulty?
Difficulty is 2, and you did get a momentum from chat.
I have a focus,
You do.
so I'll just roll.
Okay.
I should clarify, I'm not trying to kill her.
Oh, no, unless you specifically tell me you're doing lethal, it's always non-lethal.
Okay.
Because,
We just vaporize our chief engineer here. Just
all right, 2 successes, you hit her. So you have your type 2, that's going to be 8 challenge dice here. So perform challenge, put in 8.
this could be real quick.
Thank you, LH. You know exactly what I need here.
And yeah, it's that quick. Yeah, you line up a shot and phaser Rash.
Not my
and see
captain.
she gets stunned to the deck, and because again, you guys are on opposite sides of the bridge on the second level. Rash's diminutive frame is enough that she falls out of the chair and onto the floor, so you can't see her. But she is down, and you're not hearing any struggling or signs that she's active. So she is conceivably stunned at the moment.
Zucco's gonna run over there.
Yeah, we should
Try and
yeah.
restrain her. Like, doot doot.
Captain's
Dude.
going to move to
Dude.
secure her as well. But I think he also wants to. He's going to actually beckon to Vizeth to join him as he walks up that sort of neck to the command pit.
I think that actually Vizeth is going to turn to the console behind him. That is the tactical display, or where is any sort of tactical readout or sensor readout?
You could look behind you at the engineering readouts behind you.
And with a quick glance, can I ascertain what the condition of the ship is or anything external to it?
Well, you now are aware of the firefight going on outside, and you're also aware that, as Stetko suspected, about half the crew is anesthetized.
From the engineering console, can I close off those vents or turn off the anesthetizine to then, and then perhaps pump something into the ventilation system that would arouse the crew?
Depends. How's your code breaking?
Yeah, not good.
Well, let's find out together. Daring security, difficulty of 4. And I'm going to make the complication range 18 to 20.
So on seeing that, Vizeth is going to call over his shoulder to the captain in recognition of the fact that he has just ignored basically direct order to attend to him. Okay. Captain, our support craft are engaged in combat with another vessel, and I've been locked out of environmental controls. I'm going to try to override unless you have another order.
Not an order, Mr. Vizeth, but perhaps a suggestion.
Yes.
Disable the primary controls and route through the isolinear chips. They're easier to bypass.
And he actually pauses over the control for a moment and looks over his shoulder. Captain, are you sure that you don't wish to do this?
Well, I was trying to use my advisor talent to assist you, but I can certainly try. Yeah, I can.
No, I mean that's in character, not necessarily out of character. You could just say go and do it, but that seems to be a reasonable acknowledgement on his part.
Yeah, this will give me. Yeah, this will actually give the captain an opportunity to speak with Vizeth briefly. So I'd like to make a bit of a declaration, Jim, if I could, that the captain will sort of pass Stetko on the way, and he'll hand her that syringe just full of caffeine. And he'll proceed over to Vizeth. And he'll just ask him, what are they engaged with?
And GM, based on my familiarity with the species, would I recognize it?
You know exactly what that is, and it's everything that I gave you before the session.
Yes, Captain. It's an Ashishu vessel. They are honorable pirates, among other things. My species almost exterminated them a number of years ago.
The entity that called itself Null warned Commander Stetko and I about these people.
Must you speak of her?
Well, I just felt it was relevant. Stand by. I'm going to attempt the bypass. As I do, flood all decks with whatever restorative compound that we're going to be using today.
All right. Well, whoever's taking the main lead is doing the daring and security. I'd also accept daring and engineering, and then same goes for whomever is assisting, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, if I'm going to be doing daring and security, can I use shipboard tactical systems as a focus?
I'll give it to you, yeah.
Okay. All right. And what have we got? We've got a momentum, yeah?
You do.
What's the difficulty on this task?
The difficulty is a 4 at the moment. And the complication range is an 18 to 20, so you'd put in 3.
Okay. All right. Then I will spend that momentum, and GM, I will give you
2 threat.
2 threat. Okay, come on.
Well, that's no help from Vizeth, unfortunately. But Williams doesn't need it. He gets 4. Very nice. So yeah, Williams, you have control of the ship, or basically most of it at this point. You can fix the environmental controls. You can fix pretty much all of your problems except for that pirate craft outside that your fighters are having difficulty with.
Okay, so for now, 2 things that I want to do. Mm-hmm. First, resuscitate the crew, and those crew that are on, sort of in lockdown, are they not anesthetized? Or are they just sort of locked in their quarters?
Locked in the quarters, as you suggested earlier, yes.
So I'm going to end the lockdown on their quarters and signal them to battle stations.
Okay.
And I'd like to bring the shields up.
Okay. So, Dag, I actually want to have your supporting character chip in here because if I remember correctly, he is one of the ace pilots. So, Kaj, if I remember how to say his name correctly, Kaj will finally get a message through to the captain or somebody on the Euthenia after trying to hail them repeatedly for the last 10 minutes as you're dogfighting. You're also muted as is tradition, which might be...
Hello, can anybody hear me? Hello, this is Delta Force 7. We've got a bogey off the port bow. Anybody, we need to engage. We don't have an order. Hello?
4-7, this is the captain.
Oh, finally.
Engage at your discretion.
You heard him, boys. Weapons free.
We see another Top Gun scene where a bunch of mini photon torpedoes and little lasers and phasers.
20 deaths, a little Death Star run down that bifurcation.
Like that scene in Independence Day when all the missiles fire towards the alien ship.
Yeah, it's kind of very similar. So that threat's being dealt with. That's the good news. But yeah, let's focus now on Stetko, because at this point, Stetko, you've walked up to the stunned body of Rash. You're also muted as is tradition.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, so she'll go up to Rash and like flip her over and then I guess give her a once over and see if like she thinks that this is actually Rash who's just been either like brainwashed, actually turned against them, or like an imposter.
I would tell you that visually, you're not detecting any discrepancies from what you have in your mind what Rash should look like. Mm-hmm. Empathically, she's stunned, so you're not getting anything there.
Yeah. So the whole lead that led them to her was that she stopped drinking coffee.
Correct.
So that would indicate a biological adjustment. It's probably the most milquetoast version of the word I'm looking for, but a biological change in Rash.
Right.
Either as a doppelganger or like chemically, just like her body's different or something like that. So I think, where is Razib? Is he still in sickbay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She would like remove any weapons on Rash, first of all.
Take away that strange energy pistol.
Yep. She would kind of like maybe linger on the energy pistol, but see if she could identify anything about it.
It's basically the equivalent of a Romulan disruptor, but it uses tetrions instead.
Okay. Was there anything on Rash that she was using to conduct the subterfuge or any kind of tool?
Actually, as you pat her down and you find her tricorder, yeah, she had everything tied to that tricorder.
Okay, so I think that she would kind of go through it for recent activities.
And you can confirm that, yeah, Rash did pretty much all the sabotage.
Okay, so she's kneeling next to Rash and looks over towards Williams. I can't tell if it's her or not. She looks the same.
And in response to that, Bezeth is going to call over as he's examining the tactical display. The Ashishu are known for employing extensive genetic engineering, almost comparable to my own people. It may be that she is an imposter, surgically modified to appear like Rash.
Would make sense as she stopped drinking coffee, as that was what led us to her. So that makes sense. The question then is, where is Rash?
And you see just a holographic image of the other ship appear. It's possible that she's been kidnapped, although she might be dead on board the Euthenia.
It's entirely likely if she's been deprived of coffee for 2 weeks, she's probably slept through this whole thing.
Computer, do you recognize the signature of that ship?
And the computer basically tells you, I have no idea.
So at what point would we have like crossed?
Well, they were cloaked, right? I think.
They were
so
cloaked.
they can transport through cloaking.
Also, your shields haven't been up the entire time, so...
Just right now.
The whole general quarters thing.
Computers, can we scan the other ship?
Sure, what do you want to find out
For
about
Rash's signature?
Yeah,
Rash's
I'll let it happen.
life form, her specific species.
Yeah, let it happen. Stetco, give me a reason science. The ship will assist you with a sensor science. Difficulty of 2 on this one.
Said reason?
Reason science.
Science. Oh, great.
And unfortunately, I think we've used up chats, both good and evil from chat, so I can't help you there.
Starship
you can do a
security
threat dump.
systems?
I'd give you Starship Security System, sure.
I'll give you a threat to roll an extra dice.
Sure, then roll 3 of them.
And... okay.
For Foundry is being a little bit odd. I just tried to roll for the ship and it's not showing up.
Yeah, it might
mine
be
didn't go
lagging. Let me
through
see if
either.
Have a little lag, yeah.
see if it goes through. Might need to do it again because it's letting me change momentum, but it's not letting me actually do a roll.
Do I try now? Should I
Yeah,
reload?
go ahead and try now. Now that rolled.
I don't see that.
Yeah, I do see a Euthenia roll. I don't know if that's the new one or...
I'm going to refresh.
I think it's the new one.
Okay, yeah. I would just say show it again. It might have just got lost in translation.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so Euthenia rolled. I will try and roll again. I just reloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I can see
reason?
the Euthenia roll now.
There we go.
There you go. That is 3 total successes, which means you get a momentum. And yeah, Stetco, good news. Rash isn't on the other ship. She's asleep in a Jeffries tube in Deck 3, actually quite close to where the Midas array is, or at least that's what the captain was working on. But you also can confirm that the Rash in front of you is not the actual species that you're expecting. It's the one that Vizeth and the captain are talking about.
Okay, so are we, is power up?
You're still at 50% power at the moment.
Okay, well, she's going in the brig.
Okay. Are you literally going to beam her there, or?
I was going to beam her unless there's like multiple brigs. And there's one
there's
close to the
quite a number
bridge
of
or
brigs.
something,
You just
and
tell me
she
where
would
you
just
want her to go.
Go to second closest brig. I don't know.
Okay.
And as that's happening, Vizeth is just going to turn to the captain. Captain, our crew is currently engaged in a mortal struggle against the invasive craft. Should I bring our weapon systems to bear?
Of course. Let's discourage them from making this same poor choice a second time.
I guarantee you, Captain, that they never will. Yeah, so if he's not going to try to hail them and warn them off, Vizeth is just going to open fire with, can we close distance? What range are we from them?
At this point, they're at medium range, so they're actually at optimal range for the Euthenia's main guns. But let me remind myself what the Euthenia actually has in terms of weapons, because you didn't
Tetrion
start off
banks.
with much.
Motion.
Yeah, let's give him the wave motion gun.
We're bad.
No.
And you didn't take a hostage, so you have no reason to be alive. Right
So
now.
you do have Tetrion banks, which would be at optimal range for this instance.
Yes. So I think that I will fire the Tetrion cannons.
The cannons or banks, because cannons are close.
Sorry, banks. The banks. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's going to be a control security for you. The ship will assist you with a weapons security. I need to see at least 2 successes here.
Right. I will use augmented ability control.
Okay. Gives you 1 free.
And I'll buy, I guess it would be 1 die with momentum and 1 die with physical enhancement to improve his sort of reaction time and targeting abilities.
Okay. So make sure to roll those 3 challenge dice to see if you knock yourself out again.
Yes.
Mhm.
So perform task, and that would be rolling 4 dice with a focus.
All right, so we do have a complication on the board, but that's already 4. You'll take 1 stress damage yourself, and someone wants to do weapons security for the Euthenia.
So that would actually be 5 successes because
right,
I
'cause
also
of
use
augmented.
augmented ability control.
Mm-hmm.
I got those ship.
All right. Survey says nah, because we take that first one, so it's only an 18. But yeah, with 5 total successes, you get 3 momentum back, and now you can roll your 9 challenge dice to see how much damage you do with the Tetrion bangs.
And it doesn't have versatile, right?
Tetrions work differently, though I don't quite remember what we. Oh, they take away power if I remember correctly. So effects are good. They're gonna take away power if you hit them. Well, you hit them. So what I'm trying to say is, if you roll effects, you could potentially power them down completely.
And you can buy more challenge dice by spending a momentum per challenge
1
die.
momentum per challenge die. Yep.
Then I'll spend 3 momentum to buy. I'll spend 2 momentum to buy challenge dice,
Okay.
and then
Save 1 to reroll if you need it.
I think I'll go 2 piercing actually. So
Okay.
2 momentum for 4 piercing.
Oh,
Okay.
he's going for the jugular.
You let him off the chain, so yeah.
Yeah, I did. Ooh.
That is interesting.
Oh.
Let me actually refresh it because it looks like the stream overlay collapsed there for a moment. Oh yeah, that is a significant number.
So
of,
much, and those effects, piercing,
Yeah.
just
So
cut them in half.
we see the Euthenia, the banks, like we literally have turrets come up out of the hull and turn to face the incoming invaders, and we see twin beams lance out from these turrets and strike the Ashishu craft and utterly cripple it. You don't quite bifurcate it down that trench, but you carve a good 3/4 of that trench and nearly sever the ship in 2. But it has lost power completely and is adrift in space.
Novalis is like watching out the window. Gods.
Mhm.
They're gods.
Well, if it's so they've I mean, I'm still gonna try it anyway. Now that we have their attention, the captain is gonna try to hail them now.
Well, channel is open. You're not really getting a reply back, but the channel is open.
Enemy vessel. This is Captain R.J. Williams of the Federation starship Euthenia. We have your saboteur in custody. Your ship is crippled. We are prepared to take on survivors.
There is just that pause where you're like, are they receiving? Are they deliberating? And then, if I read Sir James's bio correctly, which he'll yell at me if I didn't, but we're going to roll with this, the sphere begins to basically vent escape pods. So escape pods begin launching off. And the vessel, after everything's been launched away into escape pods, detonates and provides a smoke screen as those escape pods run off to other parts if you let them go.
The captain will, but he'll leave them. He'll leave another message for them. Hopefully, the escape pods are capable of picking this up. They have transmitters, but he'll just say, "We'll drop your saboteur on the nearest habitable planet. I'd suggest that you don't cross our path again."
Stetko, since you are the security officer and you did beam into the brig, you're no longer detecting a life sign in that brig.
Guessing that they beamed them out because they have super special magic stuff that can do that.
No, if you actually check the cameras, there's a body.
Oh, they
in
killed
there.
themselves. Okay.
There's a body in there, and it's not Rash's
Oh,
body. It is
God.
a diminutive, green-skinned, pointy-eared, almost like a goblin. Just dead.
Commander?
I don't know if they neutralized themselves or if there was a contingency in place for the situation, but we do not have to make a trip to the nearest habitable planet, sir.
It is
Understood.
likely that the saboteur self-terminated as a result of the failure of this mission. Their honor culture would have demanded it. I should have thought to mention that. I apologize, Captain.
We were in uncharted territory, Mr. Vaseth. Think nothing of it. In your appraisal and your familiarity with these people, how likely is it that they'll attempt a second attack?
It would largely depend on which faction of their species we are dealing with. They're somewhat similar to your Klingons, although they have a more superficially noble appearance to their actions. They cloak their honor culture in a veneer of nobility. If this was a major house of their culture, we could be attacked again. If it was a relatively insignificant political polity within their culture, then no, we might have destroyed all the resources that they had.
Well, I want to be prepared in case they decide to come back for another round. When we wake Commander Rash up, I'd like you to liaise with her to attempt to determine a way to penetrate their cloaking.
We should also update our bioscanners to attempt to detect any other saboteurs or clandestine doppelgangers. Dr. Razid may be able to help with that.
And I think, the captain will just tap his comm badge and relay the information to Dr. Razid that he's got an autopsy to do.
Certainly one way to put it.
That's horrifying.
For sure. Yeah. Hey, you got a body to look at. All right. So, as that scene wraps up, our final scene is going to be maybe about a couple days later during your normal senior staff stand-up in the conference room. Rash, the real Rash, is present and is quite literally drinking out of a very large thermos of coffee. And says, I can't believe we didn't notice that sooner. I mean, come on, I wasn't yawning or anything. I'm not doing this just for shits and giggles. I'm always yawning. Come on, guys.
I mean, to be fair, the imposter did a very good job of avoiding us and passing it off as being extremely busy in engineering with issues with Dorothy.
Yes, that's true. So, good news, bad news about the whole Dorothy thing. Evil me kind of did a number on that exocomp. I don't think I can salvage it, and if it's coming from me, you know how bad that is. But I've got the old Dorothy backed up, and she should be online in the next hour. But I kind of want to float something by everyone. I mean, Dorothy already uses the hollow emitters to her liking, but I think we need to give her a better body than just a little exocomp.
Sound like you have something in mind.
Well, after looking at this guy, pointing at Vizeth, I have some ideas, but I'm going to have to liaise with Razib here, and, if you know Noonien Song, I think is how you say his name, I think we can make some magic happen.
Well, I trust that this time with the project, somebody will keep Commander Statko or myself apprised.
Of course, Captain. And
I was under the impression that we were going to forget about that instance.
What instance?
See,
You are a very strange race.
Razib is attending by telecom because it's his shift to watch the fungus.
There you go. And yeah, I think that's where we'll call today's session because we've handled what we've needed to. But yeah, I was actually starting to worry that I wasn't dropping enough hints that Rash was acting abnormal. So it was a good thing you guys thought to check the logs because I was like, man, am I just not dropping enough hints?
I wouldn't have gotten it unless we were given the personal logs of that crew.
Yeah, but you know that Vizeth is going to be calling Rash and be like, Commander Rash, it's been 8.9 seconds overdue for your next cup of coffee, as is your normal schedule. Are you feeling all right? Have you been inhabited by an unknown entity?
I mean, that does sound like a very Vizeth thing to do. Oh, Lord. All right. Well, that's where we're going to end today's session. YouTube and podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.